Good morning, friends. We are back for another edition of Top 5 Tuesday, and today it is part 2 of our series, The Days That Changed Country Music. Last week, we took a look at 5 days that changed country music from 1927 to 1973. Today, we take a look at 5 of the more modern days that changed country music from 1974 until the year 2000. Let's take a look at those important days in country music history. We're going to start today with February 19th, 1974. That was the day that Dolly Parton announced she would be leaving the Porter Wagoner Show. Now, she'd been a part of the show since the 1960s, had been a huge part of its success, and had been Porter's duet partner. For many, it seemed like Porter and Dolly would be together as a tandem forever, but Dolly wanted to strike out on her own, and she did just that in 74. What a great decision that turned out to be for her career as well. Did lead to some animosity with Porter Wagoner, but luckily they were able to patch things up years down the road, and she wrote a song about their professional breakup called I Will Always Love You, which also turned into one of her first big solo hits. Also that year she had Jolene. So many big hits coming out in 74 as she really struck out on her own. But February 19th, the day that kicked it all off, huge day in country music. Next up on our list is October 13th, 1975. That was the day that the CMA Awards became must-see TV thanks to the actions of a slightly inebriated Charlie Rich. That was the year as well that John Denver was named Country Artist of the Year. And the year before, it had been Charlie Rich, so he was there to present the award to the next winner. Now, Charlie was not a big fan of the country pop crossover acts that had been taking place at that time. You had Olivia Newton-John winning Female Artist of the Year. John Denver's hits, which were more pop and folky, were starting to get to the top of the charts. Artists like Ronnie Milsap starting to break through. And I guess Charlie Rich, not a big fan of the whole thing. He'd had a few drinks when he got up there to present the award, looked down, saw that it was going to John Denver, immediately pulled out his lighter, lit the envelope on fire, and walked off stage. A memorable moment in award show history and one of those days that changed how country music was perceived. Our next date is September 4th, 1981. Now, country music has proven over its history to be pretty cyclical, going from a very traditional sound to a country pop crossover sound, and it kind of swings back and forth, and you can see where the eras move and where the popularity lies. Well, September 4th, 1981 is the day of one of those switches, because that is the day that George Strait's debut album, Straight Country, was released, and this was at a time where country pop was all the rage. Country pop was the big sound, a lot of rock influence to it, a lot of pop sound in the country genre, and George Strait, he took it back to its roots, much more traditional sounding, and following after him came many more artists in that same line. You had Randy Travis and Alan Jackson and Clint Black, so that neo-traditional movement, as it was called, was born on the release date of Straight Country, the first album from George Strait in 1981, changing the country landscape once again. Another day that changed country music was August 4th, 1997. That was a day that proved country music was one of the most popular genres in the United States. And who did the proving? None other than Garth Brooks. Now, he was already a megastar at this point. The early 90s belonged to Garth, so many hits, but they decided to prove just how popular a country musician could be in a very non-traditional country market. August 4th, 97 was the day of his live free concert in Central Park in New York City. Not exactly your traditional country music hotbed, but more than 1 million fans flocked to Central Park for the free concert. It was recorded and later released as a video, one of the biggest concerts in country history, and it all happened August 4th, 97. We talked about how cyclical country music could be, and our final date on the list proves that once again. The neo-traditional movement had been kicked out the door by the late 90s, and we were back to a country pop crossover golden age, and that was proven November 4th, 1997. That was the release date of Shania Twain's Come On Over album. The Canadian songstress had struck gold with her blend of country and pop music. The songs on this CD all rocketing to the top of the charts, and this album one of the best-selling of all time. As a matter of fact, it remains the best-selling country album. It's the third best-selling studio album by a female artist, and the second best-selling album of all time by a Canadian. And in the United States history of recording, it is still the 9th all-time best-selling album. Shania Twain absolutely breaking through. And you take a look at people who broke the mold, like George Strait had done in 81, Shania Twain had done in 97, and the acts that followed and the success that they saw in the country pop crossover world, absolutely huge. But again, a day that changes country music, Shania releasing Come On Over, and country music's landscape has changed once again. That does it for today's edition of Top 5 Tuesday. 5 more days that changed country music, and we know in the years to come there will be many more that could make this list. Thanks for hanging out for another edition of Top 5 Tuesday. We'll catch you next week.